On this week's episode of the State Champs Esports Show, we've got highlights from our League of Legends tournament, a look back at the early days of home gaming systems, and we'll get caught up on all the latest news. Hello, Candace here, back again for another fun and exciting show of our summer series, brought to you by our friends over at Lawrence Tech, Army Michigan, and Hungry Howie's. Over the last few weeks, we've featured highlights from our 4th annual League of Legends high school tournament. Today, we've got the last semifinal matchup before heading into our championships. Birmingham Legacy faced East Kentwood Red, with the winner advancing to the finals against East Kentwood's black team. Let's go to the highlights with our assistant esports manager, Joel Graves.
Let's start off with this invade gone wrong. Kindred caught out here. Young Kaiser on Olaf on Birmingham Legacy, just chasing down the Kindred, who has no flash. It's just an easy first blood for Birmingham Legacy. And to continue to talk about Birmingham Legacy's jungler, he has a flashy play and bot flashing on the enemy Zillion, getting a kill but dying in the process. Although Birmingham Legacy won the early and mid game, it did not matter when East Kentwood Red picks up the Mountain Dragon, Soul, and Baron to close out game 1. Starting off with game 2, Zach Top and Yasuo Jungle having insane synergy together, getting the first blood on the enemy Shyvana. And again, to talk about the top and mid synergy, Zach coming mid, getting the dive off on Ezreal, and another kill on the side of Birmingham Legacy. And with this game 2, it's a complete reverse of game 1, with Birmingham Legacy this time getting the Mountain Soul and the Baron buff to end out game 2, and the score is now 1-1 going down to game 3. Starting off game 3, we have ganks going off in the mid lane by both jungler. However, Birmingham Legacy Zach Mid gets a bait, allowing his Jarvan to pick up not only 1 but 2 kills in the mid lane for nothing. Going from 4-0 to 6-0, Birmingham Legacy's bot lane with Tristana Thresh get off a beautiful and clean dive on the opposing team's Xayah and Alistar for a double kill, going over to Tristana. At the 29-minute mark, a fight breaks out for the Elder Dragon, a game-ending objective. It sides for Birmingham Legacy with their more than 10,000 gold lead to wrap up game 3, going 2-1 and winning the series.
Congrats to Birmingham Legacy for getting the upset victory. Next week, we'll bring you a recap of the finals between Birmingham and East Kentwood Black. You can watch the full match on our social media platforms, so be sure to give us a follow. Last week we spotlighted the next generation console, PlayStation 5, so this time we decided to go all the way back to where the home market started. In 1972, Magnavox released the Odyssey, which holds the title as the first ever console. However, the Atari 2600 is the system that brought home video games to the masses.
Have you played Atari today?
Debuting in 1977, the gaming console eventually sold over 30 million units. Let's take a look at the biggest selling games for the 2600. Coming in at number 5 is Space Invaders, which sold 2 million copies and is based on the extremely popular Bally video arcade game. Considered one of the best ports of that era, the gameplay on this masterpiece still holds up today.
Attention all generals. Now you can get your own Atari Missile Command video game.
The 4th biggest selling Atari game is Missile Command. The game sold 2.5 million cartridges and was based on one of Atari's many successful arcade games. The Cold War concept of protecting cities from nuclear destruction is extremely dark, but is also extremely fun. Another Atari port ranks 3rd.
You're a starship captain in an asteroid field.
Released for the 2600 in 1981, Asteroids went on to sell 3.8 million copies. The home version of the game replaced the stark black and white vector images for color graphics, but left the pulse-pounding rapid-fire gameplay. The second biggest selling game for the Atari 2600 is the only one in the top 5 created specifically for the home system.
Just last night, I was lost in the jungle with Pitfall Harry.
Pitfall, which was actually the only game cartridge not made by Atari on the list. It was designed and programmed by several disgruntled Atari employees who left to form their own company, Activision, making them the original third-party developer. The Pitfall game is also considered groundbreaking for creating the side-scrolling format. 4 million copies were sold, but the impact of this game and the company go far beyond the money made.
Only Atari makes the Pac-Man home video game, and you can only play it on an Atari video game system.
Ironically, the biggest selling Atari 2600 game is considered by many to be one of the worst. Pac-Man was released for the home console at the same time as Pitfall, and would ultimately sell a whopping 7.7 million copies. Unfortunately, the 2600 version doesn't look or sound anything like the original. The popularity of the Atari version relies solely on the gigantic success of the Namco arcade version, which is still considered one of the highest grossing games of all time. Anyone who wants to learn more about the Atari 2600 can head over to our YouTube channel and check out our playlist featuring live streams of the games we've just discussed, plus many others. Before we go, here are a few headlines from this past week. On July 22nd, Microsoft announced they were shutting down their game streaming platform, Mixer, and would work with Facebook Games to transfer existing accounts. And The Last of Us Part 2 was released on June 19th to almost universal critical acclaim. It currently has a 95 score out of 100 over at Metacritic. Fans, however, have been extremely divided, and a review bomb campaign currently has the fan score at only a 4 out of 10. Looks like you'll have to play the game and find out for yourself. And we'll wrap up the headlines with a look at the new Star Wars Squadrons from EA, which is slated for release at the beginning of October. The game is set after the Return of the Jedi and allows players to fly for the Republic and the Empire. The space combat action allows for single and multiplayers, and the PC and PS4 versions will be VR compatible. And fingers crossed that the Force is with this one. That's all we have for this week. Don't forget to support Lawrence Tech, Army Michigan, and Hungry Howie's for supporting us every week. Until then, I'm Candace, and we'll see you next time.